Hello everybody, welcome back to this week's new video. Today I am going to be doing another reading vlog. I read 3 books. I read The Fall of Whit Rivera by Crystal Maldonado, The Removed by Brandon Hobson, and I also read one of my most anticipated books of the year, Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead. Let's take it back to about a week and a half ago to see my thoughts on them. My hair is finally long enough to do French braids, and I'm so glad. I'm gonna see how I can wave them like this even though I already have wavy hair. I have not started reading today yet. Before I get started on dinner, I'm like violently hungry because all I had was a fruit bowl today. My first book for the vlog is going to be The Fall of Whit Rivera, which I'm so excited for. I think this book can decide whether or not Crystal Maldonado is like a new favorite author of mine because I really love her writing style and kind of wish she would write adult stuff, but the YA aspect of it is also working for me. This is her new release and she wrote in her author's note that she wrote this with only 2 things in mind: autumn and I think love. I love that because technically it's still autumn, so we're gonna go with that vibe. It's still November. I'm not sure when this vlog is going up, but it's November. I'm in my literally dead book club hoodie. I'm gonna get to reading a little bit. This is a enemies to lovers type of, or frenemies to lovers type of romance. It's following Zay and Whit. They've been frenemies ever since he broke up with her in the most embarrassing way imaginable, but they are forced to organize the fall formal together, and then sparks are flying, but they are butting heads. So this one also handles heavier topics, it says, like PCOS, chronic illness, sexuality, fat phobia, Latina identity, and class. Also in her author's note, she said that she is basing off of her own experience with having PCOS, having been diagnosed at 16. I do want to read as much as possible. I also do need to finish editing my video upload for this week, which goes up on Thanksgiving, so that's when I'm reading this. Hello, I have not been feeling very well, but I've been doing a bunch of reading today. I'm really enjoying this. Zay, I'm imagining him to be like Jackson from Sex Education, which I'm loving. Whit is really cute. She's very determined. She's very driven. She's doing a really great job planning Fall Fest. I'm up to the point where Whit already knows that she has a crush on Isaiah now, but she's also kind of deciding that maybe she shouldn't, and that was for the best because he might still have a girlfriend or be hung up on this girl and I need to change my battery. I really like that all of the Crystal Maldonado's main characters are really self-sufficient, hardworking young women who just really go after what the things that they want and they work for themselves. They're just generally really great organized girls and I love that. Their friction being a big misunderstanding, which was talked about at the like in the blurb, has already been discovered. We just don't yet know if Isaiah actually likes her back or whether that's going to actually become something. I'm not yet sure if this is going to have that part of romance or if they're just going to be really good friends. But we are talking about her PCOS. It's something that she's been struggling with on her own and she's kind of embarrassed to talk to people about it. I'm not yet sure if her friends even know about it, with Whitney just having been diagnosed with it as well. I'm really excited to see how Fall Fest turns out as well. Good afternoon. It is Thanksgiving today. The plan before I start cooking for the day is going to be to read the last little bit of The Fall of Whit Rivera because I'm almost done with it. I don't have to start cooking for another few hours, I think. It's getting really cute. I'm hoping that it's going to be a success. I really love Whit's relationship with her grandmother and how close they are. Reading for Thanksgiving and I finished The Fall of Whit Rivera, finally my first book down for this vlog. I've been reading it for a little bit too long. I'm giving it 4 stars. I really did enjoy this. I think with Crystal Maldonado though, nothing has beat Fat Chance Charlie Vega for me so far. I really loved that one, but I really did enjoy this and seeing the progression of how hard Whit worked towards Fall Fest and seeing the payoff for that, her feelings for Isaiah and how that was changing also, and them working together. They just seemed to go really well and it was so cute overall. So many fall vibes with this and I enjoyed it. 4 stars. I'm spending the weekend, like a few days at Coda's place, but I wanted to check in because I did start The Removed by Brandon Hobson. This is my new read over the weekend. This, I think, might be lit fic. I'm not sure if it's like a mystery. We're following one family, the Echota family, I think 15 years after the death of one of their children. So there's 3 kids, but one of them, Ray, was killed in a police shooting. And it's sort of like the aftermath of what their lives have been like after his death and how the grief has kind of torn them apart. We're following the perspectives of each family member. There's the mother and the father. The father has Alzheimer's or early onset, it looks like, and they are going to be taking in a new foster child. Then there's a sister, Sonia, and then the youngest son named Edgar. They're all struggling with their own thing. Like the father has Alzheimer's, the mother is kind of dealing with that. The sister, Sonia, lives nearby and she is trying to take care of her father and be there and help the mother. Edgar was really little when his brother died, but he is struggling with drug abuse. The family's annual bonfire is coming up, which marks both the Cherokee National Holiday and also Ray's death, and it's like kind of the one time that the family really comes together and talks about Ray. And so this is supposed to be drawing from Cherokee folklore, and it's about like family grief and home and the power of stories on both a personal and ancestral level. The author himself is a member of the Cherokee Nation tribe of Oklahoma, and I think this story takes place in New Mexico and maybe a little bit in Oklahoma. So far it's just incredibly sad. Like the way that he died, it's already touching on like racism, being a Native person, having been shot even though the white person was the one with the gun, or like drug abuse. Let me just double check the genre of this because it's not usually something that I read, so I'm hoping that I enjoy it because this is my one book that I have over the weekend. It says it's lit fic, a little bit of mythology and magical realism, I'm assuming because it's taking from a little bit of Native folklore. I have not read anything yet today, but we're about to go grocery shopping because what's on the menu for today?
TBD.
What? I was under the impression that it was planned because he was showing me all the different meats that were in the fridge and like what the options were. So I thought in his head that he had already thought out the schedule. I didn't read anything yesterday with it being Sunday, but I thought I would talk a little bit about what I ended up reading on Saturday of The Removed by Brandon Hobson. It is kind of weird how alike the new foster kid Wyatt and the child that died Ray are. I definitely see that. I don't know if that's helping Ernest through his Alzheimer's or if it's making it worse because he keeps saying like he's getting along really well with this kid. What we know about Ray is very little, and we just know that he's really good at impersonations and he really likes performing them for other people, and so does Wyatt. They're the same kind of quiet kid, and Ernest finds so much like joy and entertainment in that. There are bits of the folklore in between, and I don't know if that is supposed to be separate completely as like folklore or if it's just supposed to be like a tidbit that relates to the family. I think the folklore part is Sala. I'm not really sure if those are supposed to relate, which it probably is. I'm just like not seeing it yet. But so far, the family has not yet come together. The national holiday has not come up yet, and they're still trying to figure out whether or not Edgar is going to come or not. It's getting really scary because you don't want him to overdose. There's a lot of people in his life that want him to stop using drugs, and he's not, and he's lying about it. It's pretty heavy. I will say also the relationship that Sonia has with Vin is very troubling. Not to say that just because she's an older woman she shouldn't be dating such a young man, but she's like lying about it. And also Vin also is so sus and weird, just his emotions and his behavior. I find something off about him. On the train ride to work I was able to finish The Removed. Like I literally was reading the last page as I was pulling into the station. I'm giving this book 3.5 stars. It started out kind of weird for me, and I saw how it all wrapped up in the ending, and I quite liked the ending actually. I really especially like liked the father, Ernest, and Wyatt, and I really came around to Sonia at the end. In the last clip, I talked about how sus she is and how I didn't really understand her motives of dating this younger man. But at the end of this book, it's really just about how this one family was dealing with grief 15 years after the death of someone in their family. It's harder too because Ray Ray was taken from them in such a violent way, right? He died by gun violence, and how they all needed to heal still and find some closure. And I feel like, to me, Ernest was able to find that in fostering Wyatt, and that's why I think I really liked the two of them. In Wyatt, they were able to find like these moments that they missed with Ray Ray because of how soon he died. I really liked how the Cherokee folklore also tied into this, and seeing stories that these kids were also being told and how this applies to this current family. Coda is cooking up some lunch at the moment, and I thought I would get in some pages because I didn't at all yesterday. I ended up editing most of the day and doing other work that I didn't get to read, so now it is the last day of November, and I really would like to finish Midnight is the Darkest Hour within November, just for like my own personal reasons. It's a little bit of a later start to start reading a book that is just a little over 350 pages. But I'm really excited because Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead is one of my most anticipated books of the year. Ashley Winstead is one of my favorite authors. I loved her thrillers and also her romances. And this one is supposed to be a little bit of like Twilight, which I've heard. I've tried to avoid as many reviews of this as possible just so that I could go into it with my own ideas. But I did see in the reading group guide, how does reading Twilight alter Ruth's worldview? Anyone who's read this in a vlog, I gotta say I skipped that part just so that I didn't know anything. I think this is about like a cult, another one, or like at least religion. It says that it's for fans of Verity and A Flicker in the Dark. It's taking place in a small town in Bottom Springs, Louisiana, filled with God-fearing folk. It says that the only thing that the people in this town fear more than God and the devil are the myths that haunt the area. The story of the Low Man, who is a vampiric figure who goes into sinners' bedrooms and kill them on moonless nights. When a skull is found next to some mysterious carved symbols, everyone starts to freak out, and Ruth, our main character, realizes that her and an old friend from the past have the power to like sift through the town's secrets and search for true evil. So I don't know if this is supposed to be a little bit like fantasy, a little bit magical realism, but anything that she writes I'm into. I haven't even looked at anyone's star ratings for this, so I'm really excited. I feel like I'm about 40% of the way through, and it's really good. I don't really know if the Low Man is a real thing, like a vampire thing, but it's also giving me Where the Crawdads Sing vibes. I actually haven't read this book. I decided that I'm gonna go against my childhood self and switch it, and instead of reading the book first, watch the movie first, because I'm always gonna like the book more. I figured if I go into the movie first and then read the book, I could like the details. That's just my long way of saying that I liked Where the Crawdads Sing the movie, and hopefully I would like the book, because I do have that somewhere. But it's giving me those vibes, mostly because it like takes place in the South. This one girl and this one guy who are kind of loners and nobodies find each other, and they're really, really good friends. I don't really know if it's entirely platonic. I feel like maybe one of them wants it to be something more, or it could have been, and there's just so many missed opportunities. I like that it takes place between the past and the present, and it like flashes back, because it gives you a lot more context of the two's relationship between Ruth and Everett, but it also shows you what happened before and what kind of secrets this town is hiding. This town is really just so rooted in religion. It's a little bit scary. It sort of gives me cult vibes, sort of like Ashley Winstead's other book, The Last Housewife. Anything that you complain about, or any way that you step out of line and you sin, like anything that the community, or especially the pastor, says is wrong, everyone will just completely shun you from the community, and it's really scary and awful. And Ruth is kind of at the brunt of that because her father is the pastor. So anything he says is like the law. She is the one committing some sinful things. I don't like how trapped she is here, and I really want her to find an out, whichever it is helping her to do. It's really interesting. I really like it. Yesterday on the train ride to meet up with my friends, I finished Midnight is the Darkest Hour finally. I thought that I had a lot more left, but it looks like there was an excerpt from In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. I'm just gonna say, before coming to talk, I am like catching up on the live show for this book that Gabby and Elias did for the book troupe, just to kind of see what other people were thinking about this book, because I know that Ashley Winstead is a very popular author and people really liked In My Dreams I Hold a Knife when that came out. Like, that book was shocking, it was very exciting, and it was so much fun to read. But this book was different. I'm gonna say I gave it 3.5 stars. At first I was like teetering towards 4 stars, and it wasn't quite a thriller, it was more of a mystery. I was hearing that it was marketed a little bit differently, and I think because I wasn't really paying attention to those and kind of purposefully turning a blind eye to that so that I could enjoy it for myself, I wasn't really getting that, or the disappointment of that. I understand that it is quite Twilight heavy, and that part's like kind of funny to me, but because I also got the Bonnie and Clyde and the Where the Crawdads Sing, Us Against the World type of vibe, I think that also helped. If it was too heavily Twilight, or like there weren't any other references, I think it could have sucked a little bit more. But I think religion is scary. I wish that Ruth could have been a little bit more rebellious in that way, and she was, and the morally grayness of her and Ever were kind of exciting and fun. I definitely was rooting for them the whole time. The flashbacks were interesting because it really takes you back into how connected her and Ever were, but also just how much of each other that they didn't know, but how much they loved each other and how much they were willing to do to protect each other. So yeah, I didn't hate this book. It seemed like Gabby and Elias were giving it 1 to 2 stars. I still really do love Ashley Winstead, and I think I will pick up her other books, but I'm kind of interested to see what other direction that she could go in, because I felt like this could go into more of that fantastical thriller aspect, and it didn't quite fall where I thought it would. Alrighty, so I'm here to do my wrap up for the fall of Whit Rivera. Really enjoyed the fall vibes. Still wish that I started it a little bit sooner within the fall season, but it gave super cozy vibes, and I gave this book 4 stars. Next was The Removed by Brandon Hobson. It was a really interesting story that I kind of struggled to see where it was going at the beginning, but I did end up liking where it finished. I think that the Achota family was all looking for some sort of closure, and I'm glad that they were able to do that in their own way, and I gave this book 3.5 stars. With Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead, this was also a super weird one, but not in a bad way. I didn't really hate this book. Still gave it 3.5 stars, and I still really love Ashley Winstead, and I'm excited to see where else she goes. Apparently a lot of people don't know that she writes romance. Please pick them up if you haven't. And that's everything that I read for this reading vlog. I think I'm going to be working on a holiday romance reading vlog next, so please keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!